Let's see. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is the third lecture. It's like an open discussion within the framework of the virtual exchange project Impact. The initiative is called Athena for Peace because it's also under the umbrella and the collaboration with the Athena European University, but mainly is one of the main activities of the Impact project that promotes the peace and stability, or at least this is our vision as a partner, as a colleagues all over the world. I will give immediately I'm very happy that we host two colleagues and two friends from Holon Institute of Technology, Noga and Hillel, that they are going to discuss to us about their not good experience, but this is the purpose through not good experiences to share our ideas, how we can collaborate in order to overcome circumstances through the university collaboration and academics collaboration. They are going to discuss to us how to teach and how to learn out of your zone, but more information will be provided from our colleague and friend as well, Dr. Nava Saket from Holon. So the floor is yours.
You did it. You did it right.
After 5 years, even the worst student will learn this. So Nava, the floor is yours, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I share the presentation, again, thank you, Kostas. We came back from Greece after a wonderful week of cooperation, collaboration, and the sense of belonging. And this influences also this talk. We started with 2 talks from our friend from the Ukraine. And we will start this week and next week to hear about colleagues from Israel. This is not a very trivial conversation, but hopefully it will appeal to you guys, and maybe because it's a little different, we can show different aspects of our life. I have just a few minutes for my opening remarks, and then I will give Hillel and Noga the floor. So I'm sharing my presentation, and my opening remarks has to do with the fact that we do not start from zero. What do I want to say by that? We are in Israel, our experience a very tough and abnormal days. And all around the world, we see events that are throwing us off our feet, of our everyday life. But in Israel, something is a little bit different and special, and I wanted to share this with you. Today is the 6th of June, 2024. This date has a lot of meaning for us in Israel. I want some of you to go back and think where they have been in 6th of June, 67, 6th of June, 1967. I can tell you where I was. I was a little child, and I was for the first time in my life in Jerusalem, and it was during or right after the 6 Days War. So as I was 4 years old, that was my first war that I experienced. And then on the 6th of June, 82, remember where you've been? I know where I've been. I've been in the army. It was the Lebanon War. Meaning, what I want to say is this date is but of course the date is only symbolic. This is not the first time we encounter this critical situation. And the thing is that when you become a lecturer or a student, you don't start from zero. You have the 4-year-old in you and you have the 18-year-old in you together. So when you get to the 6th of June, 2024, you are already a different person. You already contain everything that happened in these years. A week ago, I was in class and I got this WhatsApp message from my student. It was a student that was supposed to come. I was Sunday, my class was on Monday. I will translate to you what this student, it's a girl, it's a student in my computer science class, and she wrote to me, "Hi, Ron Binyamin, who was kidnapped, is from my family. His body was returned yesterday and the funeral is tomorrow. I won't be able to come to class. In addition, I finished my reserve military service, so I will arrive the class starting next week." This is a message that I'm getting from a student, which means that all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore because we have a situation where we have to take care of this girl. And so I'm writing to her, "I'm so sorry. This is so sad. Be strong. Whatever you need, I'm here for you." And she says, "Thank you." But the thing is that I immediately says to myself, okay, what do I need to do? I need to think about the next step with these students that get into the situation which are completely hallucination, okay? And the ease of writing about that, the ease of accepting this kind of message throw you off and you think, where is my place? To behave like a parent, to behave like a teacher. And I also have stuff that I need to take care of. So where is it? What do we do? So we made a decision, and you'll hear about it from Hillel and Noga. No student is left behind. So we take care of them. And yesterday I had a conversation with the students, and I gave her a private lesson of last week. And I asked her, "Can I present your text message in my lecture?" And she said, "Of course." So we commit to meet daily as committee of the whole institution. We meet daily since the start of the war to discuss what is going on and how can we fix ourselves en route while we are working. We have to know the detail of every student and staff to support them, which means we are involved almost in their personal life, even if we have 6,000 of them. We have daily assessment of urgent developments, and we have to make decisions. We even started 2 parallel semesters in Zoom, hybrid. We give private tutoring. It's all being done, which requires a lot of emotional, not only time, but emotional resources. And we have established a resilience center for all our students. And I know that this is going on. What I'm telling you now is going on in almost all the institutions in Israel. The switch we have to make from 0 to 1, 0 to 100, okay, is enormous. And this what you will hear in the conversation. I want to end my opening remarks with Samia is here, right? Samia is with us. Samia is a lecturer in.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, Samia is a lecturer is a professor in the West Galilee College. This morning, this is completely, spontaneous. I wrote to her, "Samia, I'm worried about you. How are you doing? I'm thinking about you. I hope you are managing to function with all this mess." And she said, "Thank you. I'm busy all day with what is going on. I'm trying to give solution to the problems. Yesterday, after everything that is happening, I was swamped with mails and requests to cancel exams and classes. This is becoming an everyday routine. We have to be strong." And she says to me, "Thank you. Yesterday, when I was on my way to college, a few meters from my house, I hear this awful explosion. I thought my car was hurt. I was scared. I called my husband. He said, no, it's not our home. It's an adjacent settlement. This is the reality, the everyday reality. Thank you for being there." So what I want to say, guys, what I want to say is, you have to remember that we do not start from zero. We start from a situation where we already have people who have experience, which is maybe makes us more resilient, but definitely requires. So this little girl that you saw, this is me again, and we carry everything that we collected during the years. I want to thank you, and I want to pass the microphone, if we can say that, to our next session with Hillel and Noga. Thank you.
Thank you, Noga.
Hillel.
1 second.
here we are. Hillel.
Okay. Thank you, Nava. Thank you for this very enlightening introduction that sheds light on the situation in Israel through those very personal experiences. Now, Noga and I are going to have this kind of an open conversation about how we deal with teaching and learning in the context of an ongoing conflict that we've had here over the past 8 months. I want to point out that this is not a matter of justification for or against Israel or any party, but this is just a way to explain in the most objective way possible the situation and the way we deal with the consequences of war on academia. So let's start. I did not introduce ourselves. So I'm Hillel. I teach at the HAT, the School of Multidisciplinary Studies. I'm a historian, and I teach various classes on history. I'm also the international coordinator of the school. This is one of the reasons I'm here to talk. And with me is Dr. Noga Gulst. Noga?
Good afternoon, everyone. Noga Gulst. I'm a lecturer in HIT. I teach entrepreneurship and innovation. Before becoming a lecturer and doing all the way to the PhD, first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur and I come from that area. Hillel, I wanted to ask you first, many of our students are serving in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. What is the meaning of military service in Israel?
Okay, yes, I think that's a very important question to start with, to give the broad historical and social context of military service, and then we're going to talk more about how it specifically affects us. So in Israel, there's a universal mandatory military service. Pretty much everybody serves in the army. It's roughly 3 years for men and 2 years for women, perhaps a bit less. And that's one reason why it is called. We have this concept of army of the people, meaning that everybody serves in the army, pretty much everybody. And the army, therefore, is part of social life. It's even part of the long-term careers of people, part of their historical memory, and certainly part of Israeli culture. For better or worse. This is primarily the result of security needs of the country that has been dictated by the bare fact that we are surrounded by enemies, and that has been the case since 1948, since the establishment of Israel. And we can give some examples of some exceptions. For example, ultra-Orthodox people don't serve in the army, although even that is changing. And the majority of Arab Israelis, those are the Arab citizens of Israel, right? Many of them don't serve in the army, not all. But anyway, just to clarify this point, the service is mandatory and the army is therefore seen as an integral part of society. It's everybody goes through the army. We can also add an important point that there's also mandatory reserve service, meaning even after you finish your 2 or 3 years in the army, when you're 18, you get to 20 or 21, you're then being called once in a while to do a reserve service, because after all, part of the security needs of Israel require a relatively large military personnel, and this is, of course, has been seen during wartime and since the outbreak of the war in Gaza 8 months ago, since October 7th. Now, I want to point out that the military, the army, is not a caste or a social sector. That's something which is sometimes hard for non-Israelis to grasp. It's nothing of that sort. the army is not regarded with some kind of reservation. It's rather accepted as with a full-blown embrace and support by society, because it's in every family you have the soldiers. Other people are soldiers. You were a soldier probably when you were younger. I was, and Nava was, as you have seen. So, so in that sense, the military in its social composition is pretty much tantamount. It's pretty much equal to the general national population, again, with some exceptions. Now, from a more philosophical point of view, there's another aspect I think we should add, is that in terms of what we call republicanism, how citizens participate and contribute to society, how they are active partners within the state. Military service is regarded as something which is rather essential, and therefore it is appreciated. It's a major way to contribute to society. So you can, work in an NGO, but you can also serve in the army, and that is considered something highly positive. And that's also why it still confers a certain social status. If you serve as an officer, meaning if you go up the ranks, if you're this special unit, combat unit, that's considered something which is deemed positive overall by society. And furthermore, from a cultural point of view, the importance of military service in Israel has been colored or influenced by the idea. It's an old idea of the new Jew. And that's a concept which was part and parcel of the ideology of Zionism, the idea that Jews should have their own state in Israel. And but that specific idea of the idea of the new Jew was about to transform Jewish culture, Jewish mentality, by creating a new type of a Jewish person, which was antithetical, contrasting the old Jew, the Jew of the diaspora. So the new Jew was supposed to be, and it has been in many ways, strong, self-confident, productive, and also someone who is able to defend themselves, to stand for themselves in face of any hostility. And that's also part of the culture or the mentality behind the significance of military service. It has a huge cultural significance in Israeli history since 1948. And again, as a consequence, from a social point of view, those who go up the ranks, those who become military leaders, officers, they still have a certain upper social status. I should also want to point out that military service is a major channel of social integration. Think about it. Israel is, after all, a country which is strongly multicultural, even if it might not seem so. Partly because it's a country of immigrants and various local populations. Anyway, as a multicultural country, military service is a major channel for integration, becoming part of Israeli society, becoming Israeli, having an Israeli identity, for better or worse, and it's also a channel for social mobility. It's when you serve in the military, you do your 2 or 3 years or more, you acquire connections, you know people, you gain some kind of a status. It's and it could be used in many ways. Sometimes you gain skills, and therefore it has a very profound sociological significance. There's another thing that I want to say before we go on. That despite all this, it sounds like Israeli society is highly militarized. That's not really the case, because we've been able to maintain rather successfully a separation between military and civic life. And that was seen especially, I think, in 2 important senses. First of all, Israeli democracy has never been imperiled. It's never been in any kind of a danger of a military coup. So the institutional hierarchy has been maintained. And second, civic life, while it's of course influenced by by the military life, the slang, the attitudes, the historical memory. Civic life, after all, has remained separate, including in education and in science. Or, for example, generals, they could, after they retire, they could become politicians, but once they're in the political field, they do not represent the army. It's not a government of the army in any way. That should be pointed out. And in that sense, there's some kind of a notion of institutional separation or independence. I mean, the army is, of course, subject to the government, but it's still separate. Now, more directly to the topic that we're talking here, how it affects academia and our life, one thing that it is important to note is that the students that we get are on average older than the global average. All over the world, you get students in academia at the age of 18. Here we get our students when they're 22 to 24, sometimes even older, when they start their academic studies. They also come with a certain experience. Some would say that they're probably more mature than others, perhaps. But in any way, from the purely demographic point of view, they are older. And furthermore, as Noga will probably tell us later, many of them also do this mandatory, the reserve service once in a while, are being called for. And that's, of course, something that has affected us, HIT, all academic institutions in Israel during the current war. So, Noga, after this kind of a long-term introduction, I would like now to turn to you and ask you, how do you think that this situation of the current war, specifically this war, affect academic life in general?
Well, we had to become much more flexible in our studies because October 7, when the war started, was just about 2 weeks before school year was supposed to start. As you said, many of our students were called into reserve duty and couldn't come to the classes. So the first thing we did was to postpone the beginning of the school year and postpone it for a long time. We then, actually because of that, and we still wanted to add the 3 semesters in one school year, we shortened the semester. So we had to think back on what we're doing, what we're teaching, and how we're teaching it, and make a lot of changes in our classes. In addition to that, when we already started, we had to go back to the COVID days and teach hybrid because some of our students until today are still in military service. So they will join us whenever they can. And the most important thing was for us teachers and for the entire academy to do the things that academy is not good at and be flexible and change on the go and find a way to go whatever problems pops up. We had to answer while trying not to harm the quality of our teaching, because at the end of the day, we're still an academy and we still want to give our students the best of the best.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's interesting that, yes, we could actually learn some lessons from the COVID-19
era,
despite the many differences. But yes, now, so tell me, how did we as an academic staff, how did we respond to these challenges?
So the first thing we all did, and we will all required to do, is to go over our lessons, our class, to see what is important, what is less important. How can we change the classes from one side? We can't go on and continue with just frontal lectures as we are in Zoom, in hybrid. We had to make it much more interesting, much more accepting. We had to understand the issues our students have with it. And as I said before, and Nava said, no students stayed behind. So we had to go on and teach. And if I'm talking about my class, I changed the order of the lessons. I made it much more hands-on studies, much more practice in a way that we can teach online and offline together in groups, in rooms, in the breakout rooms, in the Zoom.
In terms of the content, excuse me, did you actually make any change that was that introduced topics directly related to the war, or perhaps you actually wanted to stay away from that?
I, for myself, stayed away from that, but mainly because of the subject which is opportunity evaluation. So it was a subject that I can move aside and not go into the war. I could have offered opportunities to check that are connected to the war. For me, it was too difficult to do, therefore, I decided not to go there and to stay with opportunities from the States.
You said that it was difficult for you because, well, after all, the war affects all of us, even staff, even the teachers, professors, and you probably have a more special, unique story. How did the war, do you think, impact you psychologically?
Well, first of all, not everyone here knows, but I live on the border of Gaza, which means that for the last 8 months, I'm in a way a refugee in my own country. I am not allowed to live in my home anymore, at this stage at least. A war is going on next to there. So at the beginning of the semester, I didn't even have my computer to work with. I ran out, I left with nothing. And having said that, actually the academic lessons and HIT as a whole helped me a lot, gave me a lot of support, even just in the questions, even just in being there for me. 2 days after I had my first place I lived at, Dr. Nava came to me just to give a hug. You came to me to give a hug. That was things that helped a lot. And this was the thing that then I felt as giving to my students when the semester started. Yes, I work strongly on escapism, but I'm trying to work as much as I can on my day-to-day life because this is life and we need to continue. And the only way to win any situation is to continue with our day-to-day life.
Yes. Well, I personally, I should say that I personally appreciate your forward-looking perspective, which is something I think we can all learn from. I have definitely. Yes, I can actually also add something about some kind of psychological impact that I've noticed among my students is because, well, personally, I have not been affected in such a personal way as you have, personal, physical, dramatic way, of course, just an average Israeli citizen. Of course, I know people and everybody knows someone who's been affected in this or that way. But in any case, to follow on what you said earlier about our response to our students, I think that I have been able to observe some kind of a psychological or mental discomfort, sometimes I've noticed certain lack of focus or disinterest that, well, it might be due to my teaching, but I think it was something that was different than previous semesters. And yes, that's something that I have tried to attend to, and again, be supportive and listen closely to the way students respond. Have you noticed anything like that among
I've had students call me and saying, I'm a military service and I can't join the class. Can you help me? And it was, sure, just say when in Zoom, or if you are coming home, we can meet if you want, and just go over the lessons one-on-one and help them. I had students before the final assignment calling me and saying, we will take the day off from the Army just to come to present the final assignment. You know, it was, for me, it was the best feeling ever.
Yes.
Because it means that I succeeded to touch them. If it's important enough for them to say, I'll change my military view, I'll ask for a special day off just to be in the lesson and submit the presentation to the class. It was, felt like I did something correctly, apparently.
Yes, probably even much more than that. Yes, I can totally see that and sympathize with both you and the student. Yes, so it's the way things are being affect each other. As you said earlier, that's something. That's a way for you to continue and go ahead, and it's also for your students, which is in that sense, it's really great that we have this opportunity to use the academic platform, meeting here, teaching and learning, to get over and maintain some kind of a sane routine.
And I think even more that we remembered, all of us, that, as you said, any resident of Israel was affected. If not directly, everyone knows someone that was affected by the war, someone that was somewhere. And it makes it much more important for us as teachers, as lecturers, to become more educators than only teachers or lecturers. It's a great opportunity for us.
Yes.
Now tell me, Hillel, you said before that you're the international coordinator. What's your response, and how did you react to the boycott we experienced from other academic institutions around the world?
Yeah, that's a good and sad question. But yes, something that we're currently experiencing. And of course, as all other academic institutions in Israel, some of our partners from other countries have ceased or stopped working with us in different ways. Sometimes the boycott is rather open. In other cases, it's more tacit. They don't say it, but it's clear that people and institutions see it as a way to stop working with us. This is very disconcerting, especially since we've had quite a few projects we've been working on quite successfully with other institutions. They appreciate us both personally, socially, and professionally, academically. But at the same time, there's I suppose it's some from it's between a political pressure from different forces in Europe and beyond, to some kind of a political agenda that is integrated into some academic institutions. So yeah, it's been very difficult for us. In any way, in terms of the response, we've we're trying to stay afloat and establish new connections with those who want to work with us. We try to, we don't really give a lot of time and energy to talk and explain our point of view. We see it as, usually it's rather pointless. And in any case, our students who have been engaged in the international projects, like the one led by Kostas that has taken place, took place 2
Last
weeks ago,
week.
or last week.
Last week.
Yes, that's been a great opportunity, and we look forward to engaging more and more in such projects, and in projects in which we know that our students are safe, both physically and mentally, and are accepted, and others can benefit from their participation, as I think we've been able to show last week quite clearly. So thanks go to our students and to our team, and of course to Kostas and others who are here.
This happens every week, not only last week, because this collaboration with the students happens every week online, not only last week it was like the cherry on the cake.
That's true. That's true. Yes, yes. It's not just the physical meeting in the Crete in the Chania last week. It's also the ongoing semester, and we've had 2 courses there. There are other projects. Yes, so we're going to maintain and keep doing those things as much as we can.
I want to answer Juliana question on the chat. She asked, to what extent do you think being in military service affect the resilience level of students? I'll answer and then you'll answer as well, Hillel. I think a lot. I think that doing something and helping, first of all, being in the army mature us. The students are much more matured by age, but also mentally. Secondly, when you're able to react to something that happens to you, grows your resilience. And it's something that I've learned for the past 20 years of the area that I lived in. Whenever we helped other people, we took part not even in the military stuff, but in the helping the people in my community helps a lot. So taking part in the war and even fighting or any other way grows the resilience of our students and of everyone.
Can I say something, please?
Sure.
Juliana, what we did, we have established a resilience center, which comes to help the students who are not only in army service, but also families. Like Noga told about having to leave her house. So we have few students that had to leave their homes. And we have a few students that encounter economical difficulties because of the whole changes in the regular life in the country. So this resilience center that was established has psychology people, has social workers, has people that come for academic, and they are taking care of students who come to ask for help, to assist with trauma, to assist with difficulties, financial and family difficulties, everything that the student needs, even a place to stay because we have our dormitories. So the wrapping of the students makes it possible to take care of them and to take care of us. So we split the duty between professional people that can help, because we are not psychologists, so we split the responsibility, but we give 360-degree wrapping to the students, and we try to do that. I don't know if we're 100% successful, but we try to do that because we have decided not only that no one stays behind, but also that this year will not be lost for them. So they will not lose the school year. It's very important not to have to be repeated. So if we see that someone is failing, we get indication in the middle of the semester. Now, for example, we send a message to all our teachers, all our lecturers, pay attention. Do you have someone who is falling behind? We'll give him personal tutoring. So we make sure that we catch the problems in the middle and not wait until the end. All of that and their personal resilience and our institutional resilience together forms the treatment or the ability to handle this as best as possible under the circumstances.
Yes, and I'd also like to address Juliana's question more directly in terms of the impact of military service in terms of resilience. And I think that on the whole, yes, the average Israeli who went through military service is, again, on average, more resilient than their counterpart in Europe and definitely in the United States. If you happen to know, there's this important book by Jonathan Haidt, The Cuddling of the American Mind, which talks about how American students have become so fragile and in a certain way mentally weak and sensitive that it's all about having safe spaces and you cannot really say anything and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into that. I think that on the whole, and at least that's my impression, we in Israel, we don't have that problem, and I think we don't have it, at least not to a great extent, partly because of military service. And in that sense, I think it's an important benefit that we get. And that's something that American society and possibly European society in the near future is going to be, for them, it's going to be a big problem. I'm talking about specific Generation Z. So our Gen Z is quite different than its counterpart in the US or Europe.
Can I ask you
think-
something? Please. No,
Sure.
Wait.
No, I wanted to summarize, but have a question. Ask the question, Kostas.
No, I mean, I totally agree. And I'm reading now Juliana's message that thanks you very much. And they face similar situation, even worse in Ukraine, because, they are from, they have been, they are in the weak. They are weaker,
Yeah.
But, we don't have strong and weaks in a war. Everyone is a victim. So I was wondering, it says like teachers should be the model of resilience. But in my case, be outside of the game. I can see that the problems are the teachers, because I can see the students in the week in Hanya, they have very nice blended, from different nationalities. No, I have never seen any indication, because I was very careful, of any conflict. On contrary, I can see, some weak cases from our part, from academics. So why does this happen? And, why, the academics, they are so non-mature and create the problems and they raise barriers instead of lowering the barriers? This is my first question. I know the answer, but I would like, to tell me your opinion. And secondly, why the students so nice, they interact, they exchange opinions. I'm pretty sure that they have, different kind of discussions. And I found them, a very nice group. And why, all these demonstrations within the universities from the students, and, that they present one side. And, in my opinion, whatever is my opinion, when something is appear from one side, it's biased. You cannot, let one side only to be demonstrated. Why? When the students are together and they communicate, they exchange opinions, and they are very friendly together.
Maybe we can ask the audience that question.
Yes, and why the academics, they create the problems? I cannot understand this.
Let the audience.
And why, the academics, they don't communicate, and they are very biased, and, why does this happen?
We urge the audience here to answer Kostas. Why do you think
Did you ask why do you think like the lecturers
Well,
are biased?
Yes, why, I have two types of questions. Why the lecturers, they don't give the good example, as the students showed to me when they were together and communicate face to face, why they are not doing this? And why, when the students, they don't communicate, we have all these demonstrations all over the world. I mean, I'm against any victims. I'm against, any, let's say, innocent, deaths. But, I mean, this is not the whole story. I mean, when you communicate, you know the story or what is happening. Why, the students, when they are isolated, they demonstrate. And when they communicate, it seems that they, at least they exchange their opinions and they are closer and they can save the world, because this is another challenge. What is going to be the next day? How the universities should collaborate in order to have a transition. I mean, a seamless transition, if this is possible. I mean, this is my question.
Susan.
Susan.
Well, thank you for that question, Kostas. I don't have a definitive answer, but I have some observations.
I have an answer, but I will provide later on.
Okay. Some observations that, first of all, young people, often they haven't had, they're not as involved in, how can I say, even the politicking of universities. They are curious about each other. There's a different kind of energy. And when you put people truly, because this was about soft skills, so the students were really, forced is the wrong verb, okay, but they were put together immediately from the first moment, online and then in person, in a situation where they were constantly interacting, but in ways that were fun, that were funny, that were interesting, that were thought-provoking. And this just warmed up the whole atmosphere. When academics maybe are sitting in an auditorium and they can sit, kind of behind their laptops, and you don't actually really have to exchange anything. You don't really have to look into each other's eyes and really talk to each other. I think it's a much harder barrier to penetrate. And as far as the students around the world that are protesting, well, I mean, we know that like there's a lot of let's say there's a media that definitely pushes a certain thing, and in different moments, and it's not difficult to get young people really excited about a cause, and because they're all looking for that sense of belonging, for this sense of purpose, and so this is it seems like the topic du jour, that and those were some of my thoughts about it. It's like when you actually are face to face with people, you can't just be in this black and white world. Right, who's wrong, who's the enemy, who's the victim here. It's never ever that simple. And there's a real human behind there. And so the success of this program has been for all of us, just watching them and watching actually some students who really had reservations even about coming and interacting, and we watched them hug at the end and cry.
Susan, before Braha, can I respond?
Braha, you are muted.
No, but I can read her lips. She said, of course.
You know me too well.
Very well.
I can read her mind.
Susan, I would like to ask you something, to tell me from your guest, in order to provide my side and my answer. Within the classroom, not, let's exclude the students. What is the percentage of the people that they were PhD holders? Your guess.
There's a little interference right now. How many?
No. How many in the main auditorium, it was the main activities for academics, how many of them do you think that they had a PhD in percentage? Tell me your guess.
Just by looking at them?
By looking at them, yes?
But I
will say you 85% of them, they are PhD holders.
Probably.
So I will say to you that 10% of them, they should have a PhD. You know why? Because in the research, you learn to doubt of anything. So you cannot be biased. You cannot say, this is the enemy and this is the friend. You should be listen only and then not even react, wait and wait and wait. So for me, even 85% of them, they have a PhD. Less than 10% of them, they deserve to have a PhD, because shows to me from their attitude, if this is the attitude, and this is the same for Europe as well that I'm coming from, to take conclusions and bias the things. This is not academia. This is not universities. This is like something else.
He made a change. Once, I have to tell you, the reactions that I'm getting in letters now from people that were in this auditorium and came in one way and came out a different way. I'm getting letters from people saying that the conversations and the exposure changed the way they thought. So maybe not all of them, not
Nava, I was not talking about the specific group. This is a metaphor, it was like, how can I say, metaphorical, like in English, it's like we translate something. This happens now all over the world, because the people, they don't behave as a scientist as they should do. I'm not saying that, I should blame now, the Palestinians, or, I should blame.
No, we are not there.
Fault comes on my side from both sides. It's a miscommunication, because if, the communication established, in a real decent way, I think that each side knows that, the peace and the communication is, the recipe for the success of both sides. And I think that whoever is biased and say like, I'm right and I'm not collaborating with you, it's wrong. Should not deserve to be in a university. This is what I would like to say, looking outside, whatever is my opinion, okay? And I can see the students. I would say to Juliana that the students were the good examples. Looking the students shows the way, how the young people, and this is the university should help, the young people to communicate, and not, from our project that they say, no, we stop. This is not, for me, you are not a university, you are nothing. You poison, the young people in order to not communicate and continue this situation forever.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think you're totally right, and part of the problem comes from the more mature,
academics are the problem.
Well-formed academics, and at the same time, yes, I'm not sure if you said that, but I wouldn't put too much trust in reason or science as a way to science itself. Yeah, as a way to bring people together. Actually. There's a lot of historical evidence that some of the brightest, the brightest people and scientists and philosophers and others have been so radicalized that they've held such crazy ideas, whether communism or fascism or whatever, that
Noam Chomsky.
Perhaps, yes.
Okay, but Chomsky was an extremist, from very many years. You're not expecting Chomsky to change minds now.
No, yeah, that's right. It's not a matter of changing minds, but I mean, part of the problem, I think, lies in the very radicalization of academia. We see it in many places. We have some of it in Israel too. But because radicalization means, on the one hand, that you think that you have the entire truth with you, and at the same time that you can justify any means to achieve any end.
Let's let Yoel.
Yoel.
Bracha was first. I'm sorry. Bracha was first, and then Yoel.
Thank you. I just wanted to continue what Susan started, and to say the children are born innocent and they have no ideas. They receive the input from their surroundings, from their parents, from their families, and that's where they develop all these stigmas and all these ideas that are this. So if you just let people be together, to see one another, not behind barriers, not from other people, third party, fourth party, seventh party opinions, then obviously things will be different. And I can tell you about Israel that I remember. I've been here for almost 60 years, and I was 7 years old when the 6-year day war was broke out. And I can tell you that at the time when the Arabs from the territories used to come and work in Israel, they knew Hebrew, we knew a little more Arabic, there was more communication, and as soon as there was this dividing situation after the Oslo Accord, when there was there were less people interacting, I think that's where on both sides, there's more extremism. The people who don't know one another, and that's why there's a ground, a very fertile ground for this situation of extremism and creating opinions without really knowing what's happening and without realizing the complexity of a situation.
Yes.
So in this way, I think these opportunities for students and young people to interact without the barriers, to see that the other side is not the evil and bad person or bad even country, then I think that's part of the solution. And this is why I've been applauding all these Erasmus projects that enable this this indirect communication.
Okay. Thank you, Baha.
Thank you, Martha.
Can I
Yeah,
say
yeah.
something?
Yeah, I'd like to follow on Susan and Bracha with one sentence. Well, there's a lot to be said about theories of ritual through which belonging and belief is created through behavior and or how the culture or how suffering has replaced heroism today as the epitome of the human condition, or something, or a sacred value, or something to be celebrated. But I think that there is one thing that I would like to say, which kind of summarizes what Susan and Baruch have said, is that there is a difference between students and a student, and a difference between academics and an academic. That's it. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes, Tamar?
I think, like, if you put it into academic terms, as you guys did, being someone who does the lecture, it's always easier to be biased. But doing a workshop while being the lecturer also, allows the people to have more of an interactive, like, conversation and be more open, because then you feel like people are listening to you. And I think if you put that into politics, I think politicians are taking this as a lecture more than a workshop. And I think that's the way you can, like, understand why this conflict is so complicated in some ways, because the leaders don't want it to be a workshop. They want it to be more of a lecture.
I think that this is an excellent point. And
Tamar, how do you feel yourself?
I think this should be a workshop. Like, this whole conflict should be a workshop, but I think we're at a point that the lecturers don't want to like let go of the power they have.
But I'm asking you as how you feel as a student in academia. I'm moving a little bit to the side. How do you feel as a student in academia that has to go through the situation now and still study? How do you feel? I want to hear from you, because you are the most important thing here.
It's not the best feeling. Like, when you think of a college experience, it usually bombs and, like, rockets are not in the imagination, but now, like, this is our reality. I think we don't have much time to think about our reality or our future. You almost get lost between translation, like between being afraid of dying at some point from this war, and also wanting to secure a good future for yourself. I think we should, as a student, I think the thing that holds me best is like hope. Hope is always like the best thing that can help me go through this uni experience. And I think the experience we had like last week in Greece, I think that helped me like want to actually do something about this war and actually help people and change something in this, because I think beforehand I told almost every lecturer here how afraid I was to go to Greece. But when I got there, I just felt like that the media portrays a different picture than what reality really is. And I remembered that every time I remember again that media doesn't represent reality. It represents the extremists from both groups, the extremists that are lecturers, and this made me realize that I want to be in a world more of a workshop world than a lecture world.
Thank you for your honesty.
I will place this to my Facebook as a motto, because this is
Also,
what Tamar, what he's talking about, this is the reality. When you communicate and listen each other, because this is the workshop, all the sides to communicate and listen each other. This is the only way to go ahead. One more example that we are learning from the
Juliana
I
wants
also, I like this metaphor workshop, which is better than a lecture, especially when the lectures are filled with bullet points.
Should we let Juliana say what you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think we can close with that, or well, then there's
Yeah,
Joel too.
I think we need to.
Let
Juliana,
Juliana, we
Juliana.
have still, yes.
Juliana.
Juliana?
Yeah. Thank you, colleagues. Sorry, I had some technical issues. Now I can just be, with the camera on. So just two short comments regarding, I absolutely agree with you regarding politics and regarding elections and things like that. But speaking about neighbors, you can imagine how close we were with neighbors, our neighbors. And we had a lot of interaction. We had very close cultural connection. However, what does academia really lack? And we didn't think that that important is critical thinking, because the level of propaganda, level of fakes, level of this media influence, when students can't differ fakes and facts. So this is really critical and vital issue that we have to integrate in our collaborative project, not just to interact, not just to know culture of each other, but to teach our students how to think critically, how to ask questions. And the second point is that we shouldn't turn facts into something comfortable. So what is happening just now? We're turning history, we're transforming facts into something that's convenient for us at this exactly moment. Tomorrow, if the moment is another, we will just transform and turn history in another side. So that is something that we mustn't do ever. So these are to my insights. Critical thinking, and just if something is true, it should be true forever. That's it.
And this is exactly what they say. If the academics, because I'm an academic, and I think that the problem in the university are only the academics. If the academics, they don't have critical thinking and they cannot teach critical thinking through the way that they teach, they are not academics. So for me, sorry, Joel, they are not academics and academics. You are an academic or you are not an academic. A title does not give you the right to be said academics. For me, this is very clear. And independent of the university that you are, you should behave as an academic, and you should teach, this culture to the society and to your students. Critical thinking, and critical thinking means non-biasing. This is a research. Always you are doubting, and always you are looking for the better, that it will never come. That's why you should not be biased. Yeah. And okay, so I think that we can keep two conclusions from this discussion. that the education for peace should be more a workshop lecture than, a lecture. And we should be open and listen, all the sides and communicate continuously. Stopping to communication means, what did you say? Means extremism. Someone said about extremism. No, I don't know who said about extremism, but these are the two messages. And I think that the universities, we should collaborate, not only with the facilities, but also to organize things in order the people and the students and the academics to communicate and retrain our staff and ourselves in order to be more academics. Okay,
And I
so
want,
Yes,
and I want to
agreed.
thank, yes, and I want to thank
Nava,
everyone.
go ahead. Yeah.
I wanted to thank everyone here for being brave and authentic and speaking their mind and sharing things that are even personal, which is not obvious.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yoel, I think maybe another last comment. I think Yoel wanted to say something or ask a question.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
But I think we can close the session, right? But before we do so, I'd like to get back in focus to the where we started. And Noga, I mean, one final question for you, going back to this kind of conversation we had. How would you conclude what we have been doing at HIT, at the School of Multidisciplinary Studies, in one or two sentences?
I think that if I want to summarize what we're doing and to give the emphasis on how much we starve to maintain the academic routine. And I think it is important to maintain this academic routine actually for two main reasons. The first is for the well-being, as we said before, of our students and of ourselves, the lecturers, and the entire nation as all. Yeah. And the second, and not less important, is to ensure high quality education, which is crucial for the future of the Israeli economic. We cannot, just say this is a generation and we'll have a gap here. We have to continue. And that's the main two issues we have to continue, all of us, to maintain the academic routine.
Yeah.
Thank you again all for being here.
Noga, the problem now with the globalization is not only that if a mistake will happen in any society will affect only this society, will be transferred and affect the whole world. This is like, so the responsibility of the academics and the universities is much higher than we think, because this spread, very fast.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Okay, so thank you very much. We have conclusions.
Thank you all.
As we said, that the purpose of this initiative from Impact is to collect conclusions how international network can help. I have received and I have made some notes, from the Ukrainian colleagues. Now the conclusion from the Israeli colleagues, we're going to continue next week with another input from the Israeli side. I hope, and I still keep, contacting and, also to have the opinion of the other side as well, because we need to listen all the sides, but, I'm not successfully until now, but we will continue with our cases. We will move to Bosnia and Herzegovina in order to listen both sides, because we can listen both sides, and then probably, after September to continue our discussions and engage our students as well. Okay, so take care and speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.